Hello, welcome back to America's Forum here on Newsmax TV. John Bachman alongside Miranda Kahn. We're going to get to some news in a second, but we're also at the end of this quick news update. We're going to talk about the Senate race in Mississippi, and despite the runoff, it continues in many different facets, including an ugly conference call yesterday that got way out of hand. But let's get started with the Newsmax Now update. The United States government continued to push for quietness and calm. They're saying violence is not the answer in Israel and Palestine, as both countries insist that both countries try to find an alternative to a peaceful solution to what's happening right now in that troubled area. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki said there is no independent American-led investigation into the deaths of the 3 Israeli boys who were kidnapped back in June and found dead earlier this week.
United States investigation. We are in close touch with both Israeli and Palestinian officials. We have been for weeks, and that will certainly continue.
Psaki went on to say that there have been several indications that Hamas is responsible for the boys' deaths and condemnation, but again, she clarified the difference between Hamas's involvement in the Palestinian government and the terror organization. Miranda?
And the United States cargo vessel loaded with hundreds of tons of serious chemical weapons left an Italian port on Wednesday to destroy the chemicals at sea. The cargo vessel left a southern Italian port after a 12-hour operation to transfer the chemicals from a Danish ship. It's expected to head into the open sea, where it will neutralize the chemicals, including mustard gas and the raw materials for sarin nerve gas, with special machinery outfitted in its cargo hold.
And speaking about weapons, on the first day of the new Georgia gun law, a man has already been locked up for pulling out his gun in a convenience store. According to the Valdosta Daily Times, a city down there in South Georgia, 2 armed men walked into the convenience store. They got into an argument, and one man decided to pull his gun out. There was a slight confrontation there, but things calmed down. Shortly after that confrontation, he was arrested. Georgia's Safe Carry Protection Act allows residents to carry guns into areas such as government buildings, classrooms, bars, nightclubs, and of course, convenience stores as well.
And more violence erupts. An elderly man was severely beaten at a gas station in San Bernardino, California. The 78-year-old man was getting gas when 2 armed suspects approached him. Take a look at the video. Surveillance video shows the man raising his hands and one of the suspects punching him in the face. There you have it right there. Briefly knocking him unconscious. There you go. You see it? Right. There you go. Punched him right in the face, knocked him down unconscious. Just horrible to look at that. The suspects then apparently took his wallet. Police say the victim suffered major injuries and spent several days in the hospital. Just horrible.
Awful to see that. The important thing there is that the San Bernardino police want you to see this video so that you can try to bring those 2 guys to justice. Now, another ugly story to talk about, unfortunately. It's already the ugliest political fight of the year, but apparently it's getting uglier. State Senator Chris McDaniel down in Mississippi is refusing to concede the Republican Senate runoff against incumbent Thad Cochran. And yesterday, McDaniel supporters hijacked Cochran's conference call with the press. And you won't believe what one person said on that call. Take a listen.
I'd like to know if black people were harvesting cotton, why do you think it's okay to harvest their votes?
Well, there you have it. Now, as to the caller, that remains unknown at this point. But after those comments, the Daily Beast says this, quote, racist and conspiracy nuts have turned the Cochran call into the biggest campaign blank show of 2014. Again, the caller, unidentified, is believed to be a supporter of Chris McDaniel. Of course, McDaniel says they're not tied to this. But again, we've already had this issue, guys, of the pictures being taken of Thad Cochran's wife while she's infirmed. Now we have this come up. You know, it's not what you normally see after a race is supposed to be over with.
Right, well, and you've been a politician before. Is this just being a sore loser?
No, I think this goes beyond that. And again, let me state, I have a great deal of personal affection for Thad Cochran, but I've been in a race running against an incumbent United States Senator, and I just have to tell you this. I've said it before privately. Politics can be like the mob, only legal. And the fact is that a lot of this tends to go beyond legality, beyond dirty tricks, beyond a lack of taste. We're getting reports, and the national media is now starting to cover this, of perhaps vote buying, going into certain areas in the electorate and trying to buy votes. And it's complicated by the fact that Mississippi still has election laws where the county clerks or supervisors can deny different campaigns a look at the ballots after the fact. So the irony is, in the wake of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and all these things that were supposed to open up elections, you may be seeing, for lack of a better term, Republican on Republican election skullduggery that has reached a point beyond absurdity. And so despite the catcalls about conspiracy nuts or whatever, this thing is getting uglier, and it's a situation where Mississippi state law or the whims of certain county clerks is putting some of these stories to bed if they can.
Well, we know the organization True the Vote is down there keeping a close eye on this. There's poll watchers from both sides making sure they can get to the bottom of whatever occurred, and there are some disputed election results still at this hour, so that continues in many ways. But you have to wonder, where are the adults? When is somebody going to step in, and why does this keep happening in this particular race?
Well, doesn't it seem kind of obvious? I mean, we know what happened. He got the support of black Democratic voters that went out and decided to vote for Cochran.
And also an important issue to bring up here again is a lot of folks are making a big deal about the fact that Democrats voted in a Republican primary, but Chris McDaniel, again according to the Daily Beast, voted in a 2003 Democratic primary, maybe undercutting his argument.
Well, there are people involved in politics. Usually party switchers are embraced, but there's a whole lot that's gone on down there that'll merit a lot of comments, and maybe you've got some for us on the Mississippi Senate race. Why don't you tweet us your remarks at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. There's also email, connect@newsmaxtv.com, and don't forget Facebook.